the story of Dan. Dan was a son of Bilhah. He had the tribes. He had the tribes of Israel, tribes of Israel, and the tribes were descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob was renamed Israel. Jacob had two main wives, Rachel and Leah. The handmaiden of Rachel was Bilhah. The handmaiden of Leah was Zilpah. Zilpah was a handmaiden of Leah. Bilhah was a handmaiden of Rachel. Rachel gave Bilhah to her husband, Yaakov, and through Bilhah, Yaakov begat Dan and Naphtali. Dan and Naphtali were brothers, sons of Bilhah. We find descendants of Denmark, of Dan mainly in amongst the Danes of Denmark. Also we find in Ireland, a portion of the tribe of Dan. Also the Irish have also from other tribes, such as the tribe of Asher. Also Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, Judah. A lot of different tribes got into Ireland, but Denmark, Dan seems to have been also quite important in Denmark, also in portions of Britain, in the southwest, areas of Devon, Cornwall. We find elements from Dan also in the north. Near the borders of Scotland, we find elements from Dan. We find Dan in different places. And Samson, the judge in the Bible, Samson came from the tribe of Dan. And Samson had good and bad traits. He was quite different from the normal prophetic personages. He liked gentle women, he did all kinds of things, but nevertheless he was a prophet, he was a judge, and he was from the tribe of Dan. The name Dan connotes judgment. And according to the Midrash, his father was from Dan. The father of Samson was from Dan, his mother was from Judah, so too the future Messiah, son of David, will have a father from Judah and a mother from Dan. And the tribe of Dan traditionally has a brooding nature, broods. This is reflect things about things. He can morose, one could say, a certain dark aspect to his personality. This is depicted in the play of Hamlet by William Shakespeare. And in other points, we found an article by Frank Anthony Spinner, and he discusses the tribe of Dan, and he finds two key words concerning the Danites, and these two words are lahats, meaning pressure, and marei nefesh. And he suggests that these words reflect aspects of the Danish character, or the Danite character from the tribe of Dan. And we find that the tribe of Dan, after they came into the land of Israel, under Joshua, they conquered the land of Canaan and they divided the land up amongst them. And Dan received a region, quite a large region actually, north of Jerusalem, also reaching to the to Jaffa, Tel Aviv region. The Dan at first had difficulty in taking control of the area they'd been given in. And the Amorites, the Canaanite people, were very powerful, very strong. Did not let them settle in their region that had been given to them. And they were pushed up into the mountains. And it says they were lahats, they were pressured. So this is suggested this is an attribute of the character of Dan, that he feels pressured, that he might be pressured. The Danites, according to the Bible, they felt the need for more territory. They were being pressured by the Amorites, so they sent scouts out, and the scouts went north. And on the way they came to the home of Micah. Micah was a local dignitary. He lived near Shiloh, an area of Ephraim, close to the region of Manasseh. And Micah had an estate. He was an important local dignitary, and on this estate he had a Levite who was staying with him, acting as a local priest, kind of officiate and offering up sacrifices and so on. And he had a kind of statue or some type of edifice which was used for worship, pagan worship or the worship of God, but in a forbidden manner. And this was on the territory of Micah. And these Danites, when they were going north, they came to the area of Micah. They met the Levite, and they saw his edifice, and they spoke to him, and he blessed them. And they continued on their way. They went northward. And they came to a place called Laish. All this is discussed in Judges chapter 18. They came to a place called Laish. They considered this area suitable, and they returned to the area of Dan, their homeland, and they they gave a report, and they set forward with 600 men, 600 warriors. And once they came to the area of Micah near Shiloh, and they went in. They met up with the Levite who had blessed them. They told him, "Come with us. Why should you be the local priest of one man? Come with us, and we'll make you the head of the whole nation, head of the priesthood of the whole nation." And he agreed. And also they took the edifice, the statuette or whatever it was, and they went with them, and they went up there. And they came to Laish. But before they got to Laish, Micah was to whom the edifice belonged, and to whom the Levite had worshipped, had belonged, had been a part of his household. Micah got together a posse of locals, Ephraimites and people from Manasseh, and he chased after the Danites and overtook them, and he threatened violence. But the Danites said to him, be careful. Be careful. It's not worth your while, because we have people marring nevish, people bitter of spirit, and you will not benefit from attacking us, because we get the better of you. So they decided that discretion is a bit of valor, and they left them. So the Danites continued, and they came to Laish, and they attacked the city. They wiped out the people, and they settled there, and they called the place Dan, after Dan, their father. Now, before that, we have a similar story concerning the tribe of Dan. Joshua chapter 18, we have Judges 8 chapter 18 and Joshua chapter 18. So two stories are very similar. In Joshua chapter 18 it says that, so too, the tribe of Dan was pressured. They didn't have enough space to live in. So they sent people out, and they came to a place called Leshem, and they wiped out the inhabitants and settled there and called it Dan, after Dan, their father. So most commentators say that these are the same incident. One incident is called Leshem, the other incident is called Laish. Laish means a full-grown lion, or mature lion, whereas Leshem is a precious stone. But we have shown that they're actually talking about two different areas. Okay, the story in the book of Joshua concerning going north and doing what they did took place in Upper Galilee, in what is known as Dan. Tel Dan. It's a very beautiful area in northern Israel. You can go there. It's full of springs of water. It's it's almost a sacred area. I was there a few times. It's very impressive. So that is where Dan in the Galilee, northern Galilee, was, the tribe of Dan. And another area known as Luas, in archaeological inscriptions referred to as Luas, was in what's known as Cilicia, or Cilicia, in southeast Turkey and northern Syria. That too was taken over by people known as the Dananu, who were from the tribe of Dan, and they settled there. And this can be proven in some detail, all the way up to Jonathan the Levite serving as an hereditary officiary over them. Jonathan the son of Moses. So that's another point. We have articles on this in some detail, but it's worth noting now that there were two areas. There were not only two areas of Dan. There was the southern area of Dan, north of Jerusalem. There was the area in the Galilee, and another area north of that, in what is now Turkey, on the border of Syria. And also, not only that, but the island of Cyprus, in Syrian inscriptions, was known as the area of the Dananu, and it was Idnana was his name given to it, meaning the island of the Dananu, indicating that the tribe of Dan had conquered it, and this is confirmed in part by some archaeological findings that show some type of connection between the island of Cyprus and the area of ancient Israel of the lost 10 tribes before they were exiled. So that's worth noting as a point of interest. And we'll see later it has some importance of its own. Now, we should also note that when the Danites were on their way, when they were coming to Laish, they had met the posse under Micah that had come to catch them up. And they warned him not to come, not to start up with them, because they have men of a bitter spirit, Mari Nefesh. So this too is an attribute of Dan. And we have one is not so much necessarily amongst the Danites, so they may have them, but amongst the Irish. The Irish have all kinds of attributes, good and bad, and you have a certain type of attribute of Irishmen, not the majority, but it's known, who often feel discriminated against, have a chip on their shoulder, they feel as if injustice has been done to them. It may have been, but that's the attitude they have, and they also apply this attitude to the state of Israel. They are against the state of Israel. They identify with the Palestinians who want to wipe out the Jews in this area, and they support them, and they do this much more to a greater degree than any of the other Israelite nations. I have an article about this which we're looking at. It just says it's island anti-Semitic, and we go into detail concerning this, so it's worth noting. And the Irish, on the whole, they also have had bad experiences with the British. They were economically oppressed, politically oppressed. The local aristocracy oppressed them, and their existence was not an easy one. And many of them left Ireland, they fled from Ireland, and they waged a war of revenge, of justice with their homeland, and they also fought for oppressed people, the salt of the earth, in South America and so on. The people from Ireland who were fighting for independence from the Spanish, helping the locals, and also in America, the Irish came in. The Irish helped set up the police force and the local judges, and were very active in America. And even now, the Irish, even though they're naturally conservative, they often support left-wing movements, left-wing liberation tendencies. And this is an attribute of Dan, of judgment, of justice, even though it's often misplaced, misapplied. The Irish in America, they were well represented in the legal professions, and the police forces, and unions, and civil rights movements, and so on. The very name Dan means judgment, and they're looking for judgment. They want judgment. Historically, we also find elements from Dan amongst the Jews. The Khuzars were people in southern Russia, who converted to Judaism 800s, 900s, and they became Jewish. Don't know how many of them there were, but they're very important, or they're important in their own right. And they had legends there, the traditions that they derived from the tribes of Simeon and Manasseh. But apparently there were also elements from Dan amongst them. Some of them also believed that they were descended from Dan. And Eldad in the 800s CE was one of them. He wrote about them, he wrote about the 10 tribes in general. He's an early authority, and apparently he believed himself descended from Dan. He was a descendant of the Khuzars. So that's of interest. And we also should note that in Deuteronomy 33:22, it said, the Bible says, and Daniel said, "Dan is a lion's whelp, a cub of a lion, a young lion. He shall leap from Bashan. He shall come out from Bashan." Where is Bashan? Bashan is the region of Syria, Jordan, all that area, and it's up there, east of the land of Israel. And Bashan was settled by the half tribe of Manasseh, and also by Gad and by Reuben, and also apparently from Dan, by Dan. And it says he shall leap from Bashan. Bashan in Akkadian scripts or scripts of Mesopotamia is referred to as Basil. Basil was the name they gave to the area of Bashan. And this name, in a Roman geographer named Pliny, he said that the area of Scandinavia was known as Basil or Basilia, in other words, as Bashan. It was prophesied, so that in other words, the same name that had been applied to Bashan was later applied to Scandinavia. And it had been prophesied in the Bible that Dan would be like a lion coming out, emerging, leaping from Bashan. In other words, coming out, you could say that to say that Dan would eventually emerge from Scandinavia. It's another point of interest. And as we said, Dan was a judge. We have a book of incredible Nordic origins by S. Guston Alston. 1981, he tells us in Norway, it's traditionally most of the circuit judges, that is judges who used to go around from area to area. Most of the circuit judges were of Danish descent, from Denmark. The breastplate of the high priest in the temple, they had precious stones. Each tribe, there were 12 stones on the breastplate. Each tribe had its own stone. The stone of Brit-Am is usually understood to represent Dan, and there's a difference of opinions as to what colour it has. One of the colours suggested an amber type colour, which is interesting because amber is also available from Scandinavia, is associated with Scandinavia. You should note that Dan is associated with Judah. Dan was born after Judah, may have been about the same age as Judah, and Dan had an affinity with Judah, even though they're quite different. And the groups from Judah historically would have been found associated with Dan in the Cilicia in the north. Beside the Dananu from the tribe of Dan, we also find Yardi, which was an enclave of Jews right up there in the north, alongside the 10 tribes, and they went into exile along with the 10 tribes. And also still in the land of Israel, Dan and the Sever joined the tribe of Judah. Some of his territory was interposed in the area of Judah. So we have associations with Judah. Several times in history we find, when we trace the peregrinations and migrations of the tribes, we find elements from Dan alongside Judah. So too we find historically that the Jutes were in Jutland, which is the peninsula of Denmark, whereas the Danes were more in islands to the east of them, and also for a while in southern Sweden, until the Jutes left and they went to England, or mostly went to England. And then the Danes came in from the east and populated Jutland. But there too we have the Danes and the Jutes together. And I've been finding this association. And also when they built in the building of the Mishkan and the building of the tabernacle, Judah Bezalel was appointed to supervise the building of the tabernacle, and his second in command, or his assistant, his partner, is the Aholiab from the tribe of Dan. So too when Solomon built the temple, he was assisted by Amahas the craftsman, Hiram. His father apparently was from Dan, his mother from Naphtali. So we have this association with Dan and Judah. Also when they went forth, when they travelled in the wilderness, through the desert, when the Israelites came out of Egypt and they travelled through the wilderness, The order of marching was that Judah was at the head and Dan was at the bottom. Dan was at the south to gather up the stragglers. And Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra, as an early authority, says that this was the reason for this was above Judah and Dan, were the foremost warriors amongst Israelite people. So therefore Judah was in the forefront and Dan was at the rear to protect the rear. Where in those two areas, the front and the back, is where you put the foremost warriors, according to him. So that's interesting. We trace down to Denmark and also to Ireland, to Wales, not all the people in those regions, but elements within those regions were foremost or prominent amongst them. And Dan is linked both to a lion, compared to symbolized both by a lion and a serpent. In some sources, a serpent also becomes a dragon. The Welsh dragon may also have significance. Also, the Vikings, the early Danes, were prominent amongst the Viking peoples, and they often had a dragon, a picture of a dragon, or traditionally they had a carved image of a dragon at the prow of their boats. So that is also interesting. And in the Irish traditions, we have the idea that the tradition that the Danes, the people of Dana, from the tribe of Dan, or the god Dana, or some say that also traditions of the two other Dana, the people of the tribe of Dan. According to one authority, this means that they were together with Judah. There were Jews amongst them, from Judah, in Ireland. And according to the legends, one says they came from the region of Mount Libanus and Lebanon. Others mention other areas also in the region of Israel, the great land of Israel, which ties in with historical indications that we have found. Also, the Dans were taken into exile. People were taken into exile to Denmark, to Ireland. The book of Amos speaks of it. He speaks of them. Amos actually speaks of the very interesting. The book of Amos speaks of captives from Judah, from the 10 tribes, being taken into exile by Philistines in ship. And we have traditions that peoples from Ireland, peoples in Ireland, have been brought there by Philistines. And the Philistines are associated with Minoan civilization. Now, this was always known. Now, latest findings are confirming this. Mycenaean and Minoan civilization are characteristics of the Philistines. So where you find finds attributed to Minoan, that is Minoan in Cyprus, or Mycenaeans from Greece, they are from Dan. Also the Danes at one stage, according to Strabo, have been conquered by the Danites, also from Dan, who they themselves, according to Diodorus Siculus, were from the tribe of Dan, associated with the Dan of Israel. At one stage they conquered the Greece and gave much to Greek civilization, and then they left. And at some stage they were also subdued, they became servants or subjects of the Greeks and of the Philistines, and they came to Denmark. So they came to Ireland, and apparently also to Denmark. We find a city, also not a city, we find a settlement of Minoans. In southern Denmark, on the border with Germany, and it's called Edomshard. Edomshard, that's his name. Don't know, I tried to find it, I don't know where the name came from, how long it's been there. That was the name of the place where they found archaeological evidence of Minoan civilization. There's Phoenicians, Philistine presence. And according to Amos, the Philistines and the Phoenicians were both agents of Edom in transferring the Israelites to the west. So this is of interest. Also, we have Christensen. We have a book. I have a book here somewhere. A book concerning the Scandinavian biblical times. A book on archaeology. And they in effect say that Scandinavia, including Sweden, at one stage was settled by the Minoans. It was a Minoan colony. In the rise of Bronze Age society by Christiansen and Thomas B. Larson, 2006. And so that's what we have. The Danes in the Bible were known as Y, so they're known as adepts in metallurgy, as coming from the north. Also, Midrashim speak of this. This fits ancient Bronze Age Scandinavia. Some is more traced the Danes to Norway. And Bronze Age Scandinavia, also in addition to having being of Minoan origin, according to archaeological findings, it had contacts with Egypt, with Crete, in the area of Syria, Lebanon and Israel, according to archaeological findings. Tribal characteristics. And there are two different types of Danites, so the Danes in the south and Danes in the north that were different. The Danes in the south were more earthly. One could say that they were more materialistic, whereas those in the north were more inclined to become warriors. And there are different aspects of them. Also, the Danes in Scandinavia. The Danes in Scandinavia, they had a tradition. They were descended from Dan the Great. Dan the Great, the son of Humble, and they were brothers to the Angles. And the son of Humble, Dan the Great, the son of Humble, someone called Humble. And Humble is another name for Jacob. So that is also interesting. And the word Jacob, one of the meanings of the name Jacob can mean humility. So Humble could represent Jacob. And also, Samson came from Dan. I read an early history of the Danes and Saxo Grammaticus. You heard of that, Michael? You heard of Saxo Grammaticus earlier?